Disaster Planning and Response Art Rescue is a first responder for the world of art, providing planning, packing, evacuation, conservation, and storage for all your treasured possessions.
So we're going to hear an excerpt from Identical, Scott Turow.
Now I have to find what I'm meant to read, but in the interval, those of you who see me at the microphone and who watched Michelle's beautiful performance, I would like to reassure all of you that I'm not even going to take off my sport coat. The sort of
Take it off. Poor Scott.
the problem.
Oh dear. Oh, I'm sorry.
I lost my microphone.
It's harder than it looks, right?
Can we okay, this is live. Adlai Stevenson once watched the entire text of a speech blow away, and he looked at the audience and he said, well, you really haven't missed much. A sort of star of Identical, the unwitting star, is an 81-year-old former homicide detective named Tim Brody, and he's the character who ran away with the book. And so this is a little excerpt about Tim's background. When he was born, Tim's family, the 5 of them, had lived in a 1-bedroom, 3rd-story walk-up about a mile from here. He was the baby, the unexpected child who came 8 years after his brother, 10 years after his sister. His mother was a frail woman whose nose was always running and who seemed beleaguered by her life. It was his father who held it all together. He was a big man, bigger even than Tim grew to become, who roared rather than spoke, and generally extolled life, and certainly his wife and his children. Whenever he arrived home, Tim was overjoyed. When Tim was 6, his father, a yard man on the Chicago and Northwestern, fell between 2 cars and was killed, sliced in half, according to accounts Tim heard years later. His mother was simply beyond herself, shattered by her husband's death. Tim's sister, 16 then, left home, and his brother was parceled out to his mother's sister. But at the age of 6, a bit rambunctious and morose with the loss of his father, Tim was too much for any relative to take on, and his mother deposited him with a brown lacquered valise at St. Mary's home, telling him she would be back for him soon. She never came. He cried himself to sleep for over a year. Most of his buddies on the police force who had Catholic educations tended to down-talk the nuns, telling stories about how the sisters wrapped their knuckles with rulers, making out most of them as these dried-up, sexually deprived bitches who'd found their marriage to Jesus as unhappy as everybody else's. But the sisters and brothers who cared for Tim at St. Mary's, and him not even born Catholic, they had saved his life. They were kind and full of faith in the goodness and potential of every child. Even as a kid, missing his mother and his father every day, there was a piece of him that knew he was better off there. He started playing the trombone. Sister Aloysius gave it to him, and he got good. That horn, son, she said, will get you out of here. It got him a place in the Marine Corps band, and that in turn got him a place at City College. He was 24, playing nights in jazz clubs, when his mother walked by him on the street, her arms full of brown grocery bags. He said nothing, but trailed her all the way to a tenement. She went through the door before he could get inside, but he stood on the street and watched the lights go on in a 4th-floor window. When another tenant emerged, he went in. His mother stood there on the threshold staring at him. Then her nose turned red, and she lifted her apron to her eyes as she cried, "Oh, Tim," she said, "Tim, I didn't know what to do." He heard a child complain inside the apartment, and a girl about 10 reached her mother's side and stared at him darkly. His mother invited him in. He declined out of sheer confusion. Maria had invited Tim's mother and his 3 step siblings every year at Christmas, and they came, but Tim had no feeling for them. Instead, he regarded himself as blessed to have his wife, his daughters, and his brother. He had people to love who, best of all, loved him too. He didn't feel it made sense to waste the energy on relationships that would only pull him under some emotional waterfall in which he'd never catch his breath.